Getting your pre-training nutrition wrong can ruin a session. Energy crashes, stomach cramps, or worse. But getting it right? That can take your training to a whole new level. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fuel your workouts for maximum performance. And if you're new here, then hey, my name's James and I'm a registered sports and exercise nutritionist. I work with amateur and pro triathletes to help them train and race better, improve their recovery, and do all of this in a healthy fashion. Today, we're talking about one of the most common areas that triathletes get wrong, and that's their pre-training nutrition. It's such an important topic because what you eat before your workout can make or break your performance. If you fuel it correctly, you'll feel energized and ready to hit your session with full intensity. But if you get it wrong, you could end up feeling empty, have stomach upset, or even have to cut a session short because you just can't continue. When you exercise, your body relies primarily on two sources of fuel: carbohydrates and fat. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred energy source when it comes to moderate to high intensity exercise. They're stored in your muscles and liver as glycogen and broken down into glucose when your body needs energy. Fat, on the other hand, is a much slower fuel to metabolize or burn for energy. And while it plays a significant role in lower intensity exercise or endurance activities, it's not efficient enough to power you through harder sessions or high intensity intervals. This is why carbohydrates should always be the focus when you're preparing for a workout. The problem here is that your glycogen stores are limited. Most people only have enough glycogen stores for about 90 minutes of hard, steady effort, and that's only if they've carb loaded properly beforehand. And this is why it's so important to fuel up before your workouts, especially for longer or more intense sessions. If you don't, you risk running low on your glycogen stores, which not only affects the quality of your session, but it can also compromise your recovery and long-term progress. I worked with a triathlete last year and we were talking about this topic, and they had a total light bulb moment. We were speaking about what to eat before training, and I was going through some of the concepts that we'll cover in the rest of this video. But when we were talking, they suddenly made the connection and said, so that's why having something like nuts before my high intensity training doesn't make me feel great. I was so pleased that they had understood it. So then we worked on the practical solutions to improve their fueling, which helped them train so much better. When you eat carbohydrates before training, they provide an immediate source of energy and help to stabilize your blood sugar levels. This reduces the chance of starting your session feeling sluggish or low on energy. The timing of your meal or snack is also critical. Eating too much or too close to your session can leave food sitting in your stomach or your gut, which increases the risk of gastrointestinal discomfort, especially during activities like running. On the other hand, eating too far in advance can leave you hungry and without the energy you need to perform. So they're both a problem. We're going to dig into this more later in the video, but first let's talk about how much you should eat before training. The amount of food you need depends on the type, intensity, and duration of your workout. For lighter, low-intensity sessions that are less than 60 minutes, around 20 grams as a minimum is usually enough to keep your energy levels up. For higher intensity sessions, aim for at least 40 grams of carbs, ideally 1 gram of carbs per kilo of body weight. For example, if you weigh 70 kilos and you're prepping for a high-intensity bike session, you'd aim for about 70 grams of carbs beforehand as a minimum. This ensures your glycogen stores are topped up and ready to fuel your workout. Generally, the best foods to eat before training are those that are high in simple, easy to digest carbohydrates. These are the foods that provide a quick burst of energy and aren't too hard to digest, meaning they're less likely to cause stomach upset when you exercise. All these that I've put on the screen are great options that could work as a pre-training simple meal or snack. It's important to avoid foods that are high in fat, fiber, or protein before a training session. While these nutrients are all essential in your overall diet, they're slower to digest and they can increase the risk of stomach discomfort during exercise. Now, this doesn't mean you can't have them at all, but you just need to be wary and be more careful, especially if you have a sensitive stomach. Timing is just as important as the type and amount of food that you eat. The key concept is that the longer you have before your training session, the more you should have to eat, and the closer you are to the start of the session, the less you should eat. I've put some examples of the sorts of foods that you might eat before training, so you can get an idea of how this might look in a practical sense. So as you can see, I'm not specifically suggesting that you can't have more before training, you've just got to make sure that you have enough time to be able to digest it properly. But the truth is that some of you will still struggle, even if you've given it 3 to 4 hours, but you've eaten something that's been high, or particularly high in fiber, fat, or protein. So if that's you, you just need to opt for those simpler options, and this will improve your sessions. And this does still work first thing in the morning too, if you're short on time or don't fancy anything particularly big. The type of training you're doing also plays a role in your pre-training nutrition strategy. Running, for example, places more stress on your digestive system due to the mechanics of it, so you need to be especially cautious with your food choices. Here, it's best to stick to the simple, easily digestible carbs and avoid large meals too close to your training session. Swimming and cycling are generally more forgiving on the stomach, so you can be slightly more lenient with your food choices. However, it's still a good idea to avoid foods that are high in fat or fiber during your interval or high intensity sessions, because they are still more likely to cause problems for you. The key to all of this is experimenting and finding out what works for you, while understanding the concepts behind your choices. What works for one triathlete won't necessarily work for another, so don't feel like you have to eat a certain way because someone else does. The truth is that there are so many options available that could work. You just have to find out what you should go for. But getting your pre-training nutrition right is one of the most simplest and effective ways to improve your performance and enjoy your workouts. But if you want to really up your game, you should also focus on your recovery nutrition too. And in this video here, I go through how to improve your recovery and some awesome snacks to choose.